welcome. My name is Devin. I'm going to be emceeing this. I don't know whose decision that was, but here we are. We have here 10 talks in lightning round style. Devja here is going to be our timer. And I guess that's most of the information. First up, our first speaker is Alex Quevedo. Alex is currently a U.S. Forest Service consultant working with the National Forestry Commission of Mexico, where he leads the development team for the early warning system for deforestation utilizing a remote sensor network that monitors anthropic and climatic impacts on forest ecosystems. He has a master's in geography and has co-authored 5 internationally published articles on remote sensing and environmental modeling. Take it away.
Okay, hello. Okay. Today I'll talking about the developing an early warning system for deforestation in Mexico. The goal is the design a pilot project at the subnational level that allows the detection of forest cover loss to the creation of early warning alerts based on satellite data. For this purpose, we made a hot and cold spot analysis. We use data from the grid sampling used to report the deforestation rates. And in the upper right, we can see the location of 2 areas of study, Montes Azules and Caradmul, which are in operation now. And in the case of Montes Azules, this polygon contains 7 natural protected areas, and in the case of Caradmul, this is the polygon of the 1 natural protected area. In the lower right, we can see the location of the avocado production belt between the Jalisco and Michoacan states. Now we produce quarterly warnings. Using data of Sentinel-2, we complete 3 periods of the warnings for Montes Azules and 1 period for the case of Caradmul. Now we run 3 algorithms. 1 algorithm run through the Google Earth engine, and we still face some challenges. For example, reduce the warning periods, the cloud cover in the area of Caradmul, and the false positive by phenology in the case of the tropical dry forest. To solve this challenge, we tried different methodologies, focus in radar data from Sentinel-1. And finally, I like to mention this project is a part of the interinstitutional coordination strategy to promote legality and transparency in the forest sector in Mexico. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Dereje Likissa. He is measuring reporting verification specialist for the RED Plus coordination unit at the Oromia Environmental Protection Authority in Ethiopia, as both an MRV and also a geospatial data analysis with RED. He has worked on a myriad of landscape-based forest monitoring and developing activities. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I will present to you what is the objective of Oromia Forest Landscape Program and where we are. So our objective is to reduce net greenhouse gas emissions from the region, as well as to promote and provide rewards for emission reduction result-based payments for the community. So we have 3 pillars here. The first one is enabling environment, the second one is enabling investment, and the third one is emission reduction result-based payments. The first one and the second one started in 2017, and now we are at result-based payment. So first, we conducted a baseline assessment for the region using the systematic sampling technique, and we used Earth Engine, Se.plan, and Collect Earth Online, and Collect Earth is used for this one, and we had a data which is based on stratified sampling technique. Sentinel, MODIS, and Landsat Earth observation data were used for this analysis. And the way we analyzed is seen here, and the product we got is this one, where forest land is the main emitter of the emission, and also about 772 million tons of carbon dioxide are emitted to the atmosphere for those periods, and 85 million tons of carbon dioxide are emitted to the atmosphere per year from the region. So in order to reduce this one, we conducted the ex-ante estimate, which is about 45 million tons of carbon dioxide to reduce this one, removing the uncertainty and the buffer analysis, we can reduce about 23.8 million tons of carbon dioxide. So we have emission reduction result-based payment agreement we discussed with the ISFL, Biocarbon Fund, and we will going to get about $40 million for emission reduction result-based payments. These are the steps that we followed. There are modalities. We have two phases, and there is modalities. And for those, we have about, we will going to reduce about 7 million. Okay. Okay. So this is the way we will going to reduce, and we will going to use Earth engine, and we will achieve emission reduction result-based payment. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dereje. Our third speaker is Fred Stolle, who for 19 years has worked at the World Resources Institute's Forest Department and is currently a deputy director working on specialized land use, land change assessments, its drivers, impacts, and policies with a focus on climate mitigation and ecosystem services.
Wow, so impressive.
There are so many words here I don't know.
Thank you. Quick talk, 3 minutes, land use change, and carbon. We all know the world is a big place. Nothing new here. And so WRI has for a long time focused on the forest part. I hope you all know Global Forest Watch. But we are also now looking at other land uses. I said the world is a big place, but there has been a lot of change. 800 million hectares, that's nothing to you, but it's the size of the continental US. So in 20 years, an area the same size of the continental US has changed. So the change is ever increasing, going faster. So we had this map, Global Forest Watch, we call it the Google map of forest. And you can do all those different things. There's weekly change, there's yearly change. You can put it in different areas. You can also beautiful graphs and all those beautiful things. Awesome. But we know that was not enough. We need to use at other land uses. And because we need to protect forest, that's where the GFW comes in. But we also need to restore. We need to also measure how much is restoration doing. It's a much more difficult thing because it's always very easy to see trees fall. Satellites are very good at that. But to see tree growth, tough. And the other thing we need to produce, because it's nice to have a lot of forest, but we still need to eat. And so we need to we need to produce on less land because we want to have more space for forest. So what are we going to do over the next few years? We're going to map grasslands with new artificial algorithms, because grasslands, the biggest deforester, a lot of GHG made from the cows, very unproductive system, but a very large system, as you see, almost 5 billion of hectares. What else are we going to do? Cropland mapping. You see here a cropland map from University of Maryland that we work with, and you see cropland expansion and reduction. Just to zoom in a few areas, reduction of cropland in Russia. People go to the cities and abandon cropland. Enormous increase in cropland in Africa, in the Sahelian zone, doubling of population. You need to eat, so a lot of area get expanded into forest and natural grasslands. This story we all know, soy, soy, and soy. It's all there. Just to see how that sees in Nigeria, thank you. Here you see one of those graphs where you see a lot of population increase in Nigeria, decreasing yields, and so enormous increase in cropland. And you see that grassland went to cropland. You see that forest went to cropland and forest went to grassland. So all these changes are happening, and this is happening in a lot of area. in Africa. It's a big driver. So better understanding croplands, better understanding grasslands with a lot of artificial intelligence algorithms with GE is our new thing. And so I wait until she says rap. Rap, that's it.
Nice job. Okay, so our fourth speaker here is John Dilger, who has worked as a geoinformatics fellow with the NASA Developed National Program. He's built tools and teams for remote sensing projects and platforms, as well as LiDAR technology-based automation methodologies. He currently works in the Spatial Informatics group as a Google Earth Engine specialist and analyst.
Excellent, thank you. Great, so I'm going to be talking about Se.plan, a forest restoration suitability decision support tool. So Se.plan is a loose acronym for Spatially Explicit Forest Restoration Planning Tool. It's located in the CEPAL platform, which is part of the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization's Open Forest suite of open geospatial tools. And it's powered by Google Earth Engine. So before we really dive into it, why did we come up with this idea for this tool? Ideally, it is just to support stakeholders and forest restoration planners in identifying areas to restore forests based on what factors are most important to them. So how did we do this? So we derived a sort of ranking schema that helps that allows users to rank their importance of restoration benefits and relate that to the cost of implementing forest restoration, as well as constraining that by biophysical or socioeconomic constraints. I won't get into the details of the cost layers too much, but suffice to say there are opportunity costs and implementation costs. So opportunity costs are the costs of forests relative to what that land might be otherwise, such as cropland or pasture, and implementation costs are the costs of what it would take to actually have a restoration activity on bare or open ground. And briefly, what is forest restoration? It's a bit of a nebulous term. For us, we just defined it as the establishment of tree-dominated ecosystems that supply forest goods and services. So the way Se.plan works is it's constrained to these areas in green in the map. From there, after you've selected an area of interest, a user will rank their importance on these four sort of main restoration themes. So that's biodiversity conservation, carbon sequestration, locally livelihoods. And optionally, then you can apply constraints to limit where restoration is possible or where you want to assess a possible restoration activity. So what do you get out of it? The output of Se.plan is this suitability map. Areas in darker green here for this example show areas of higher restoration suitability based on the user's input. Additionally, we also have a dashboard that will summarize high-level details about the analysis. Thank you.
All right, our fifth speaker is Maria Olga Borja, an Ecuadorian currently based in San Antonio, Texas. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Applied Ecology and a Master in Geographic Information Systems and Science. Since 2014, she's been engaged with deforestation detection as part of the Amazonian Georeference Socio-Environmental Information Network. She has overseen 4 map collections of the Ecuadorian Amazon as Fundación Ecociencia's technical lead for the Land Cover and Land Use Monitoring Initiative, Map Biomass Amazon, which is a network of 70+ institutions mapping collaboratively to quantify and track change.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks again for this opportunity to share our work with you. Today I will be talking about how mapping human activity in the Andes is teaching us about early signs of climate change in the region. This work is the product of the Map Biomass Network and its Map Biomass Amazon initiative, of which I am very proud to be a part of. We are passionate about leveraging remote sensing data and free processing platforms like Google Earth Engine to boost conservation goals in the region. Our annual maps span from 1985 onwards, and they're publicly available. Just follow the QR code. They're also GE assets, by the way. Initially, we set off mapping changes directly caused by human activity in the Amazonian and the Andes, but in doing so, we stumbled upon other large-scale changes, such as glacier retreat, deglaciation, lake expansion from deglaciation waters, and even tree line shifts. What these changes might have in common is that they may all be attributable to now measurable climate change effects. Take glaciers, for instance. In the last 3 decades, 42% of the South American glaciers, the Amazon headwaters, have been lost at a rate of 28 square kilometers per year. That is as if an area equivalent to San Francisco's airport were lost every year. I encourage you to take a look at these results for yourself by following the QR code behind my partners here. Sadly, glacier retreat is somehow expected under current climate change scenarios and conditions, but deforestation in the lowland Amazon may have played a role in it too. You see, less forest in the lowlands translates to less water being pumped into the atmosphere, which would normally travel thousands of kilometers away until hitting the impassable Andes and replenishing the glaciers. This is just to reinforce how halting deforestation is a low-hanging fruit solution to climate change in more than one way. Okay. This is another image of how sensitive the Andes are. Notice in this image of the Ecuadorian Andes how the tree line seems to be shifting toward higher altitudes. Thank you. This is happening in remote areas with almost no human presence, and these results have been mapped consistently in our 4 collections. Are these the shifts that models have predicted theoretically, that we're now able to see them? Normally, forest expansion would bring me great joy, but in this case, we're very worried about how this shift may be encroaching naturally grass and shrub-dominated ecosystems, which are also being pressured by human presence, and what this might mean for nearby carbon-rich peatlands nearby. We will be looking into this more deeply in the following months, but for now, I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
All right, moving right along, our 6th speaker is Mattia Marconcini, coming to us from Germany, where he is an engineer and project manager for the Smart Cities and Spatial Development team, and the German at the German Aerospace Center. His research and work focus is on the use of Earth observation techniques to support sustainable urban development, and he is currently developing the World Settlement Footprint Suite, a high-resolution dataset tool for characterizing urbanization at a global scale.
Thank you very much. So good afternoon. And in the last few years, I've been largely investigating one of the most challenging phenomena of our times, namely urbanization. And in particular, thanks to Gullart Engine, I've been generating the World Settlement Footprint, WSF, so a suite of open and free AI spatial resolution layers aimed at comprehensively characterizing human settlement at the global scale. So the first product to be completed has been the WSF 2015, which, based on Sentinel-1 and Landsat-8 imagery, outlines the global settlement extent at 10-meter resolution for the year 2015. The product proved highly reliable even in suburban and rural areas. However, the advent of Sentinel-2 data has considerably changed the game. Accordingly, by combining Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2, I've recently implemented the WSF 2019, which further improves accuracy and precision, to say the least, as it clearly emerges also from the examples here. Anyhow, to properly understand urbanization, a look at the past is also mandatory. Thus, by processing the entire Landsat archive with the support of Noel from the GE team, we could generate the WSF evolution, which outlines on a yearly basis the settlement extent growth at 30-meter resolution so far for the period 1985-2015. So now, the focus is on extracting additional information besides exclusively mapping where settlements are that could be of support to different applications. So to this purpose, the WSF 2019 imperviousness estimates, based on Sentinel-2 data, the percent of surface on the ground which is actually paved, and it can be considered as a good proxy, for instance, for the building density. Furthermore, we know that the vertical component is everything but negligible when analyzing the built-up environment. So in this regard, by exploiting freely accessible digital elevation models like the AlloStem here in the example, I developed a novel algorithm that allows to estimate the building height globally. And actually, it seems rather accurate based on extensive qualitative and quantitative assessment. So now the finale. Generally, population records are available per admin units. Here, to come up with a density product that gives a more accurate idea of where people are living, I've been combining information on building density and building height, along with a mask of building whose use is not suitable to host resident population. So derived, for instance, from OpenStreetMap. So this is the resulting WSF 2019 population. Here you can see that the higher the height and the higher the density, the higher is the estimated number of inhabitants. In this regard, the product has been yet shared with the World Bank for different countries, including Ukraine, and here is an example for Kharkiv, and employed for first assessment of possible economic funds necessary for the reconstruction after the war. And the feedback was extremely positive, especially comparing the result to existing layers like GHL Pop or WordPop. So that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
All right, so our seventh speaker is Santiago Fernandez, a research assistant at Universidad del Rosario in Colombia, where his main research focuses on using satellite imagery to detect illegal mining and deforestation patterns under the direction of Santiago Saavedra. I'm sorry. He is also part of the development team for CoMiMo, an interactive platform to locate illegal mines in Colombia using artificial intelligence and Google Earth Engine.
Hi, so I'm here to introduce you all to what CoMiMo is. CoMiMo goes for Colombian Mining Monitoring. It's a web platform that is created in order to track illegal mining in Colombia. But tracking illegal mining is a very difficult process and is very important because like the effects of illegal mining can be so deep that they can be in your pockets right now, since 67% of the United States companies could not identify the origin of their minerals used. So they can be produced illegally. But in Colombia, these effects can be quite bigger because it is associated with tax evasion, pollution, financing of armed groups, and child labor. In fact, a part of pollution, CoMiMo was born because we have like a data gap where we were trying to study the health effects on newborns, like born downstream the mines. So let me show you a couple of videos to let you know more about CoMiMo. It's in Spanish. Okay. Okay, so okay, so in summary, CoMiMo takes satellite images, and through our deep learning model, it says that it would be a mine there or no, and we check that out with the legal mine map. So the ones predicted as mines that are away from the illegal mine are supposed to be illegal. This is part of the toolbox that we use. Now we use NICFI imagery, and now we have reached 90% accuracy. That number of hectares mined, and 62% of them were legal, were illegal. So that's all. If you, this is CoMiMo now. And Thank you. You can join CoMiMo and subscribe to your favorite Colombian municipality to get information about mining predictions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Santiago. Our eighth speaker is Shijuan Chen, a PhD in Earth and Environment and now a postdoctoral researcher and lecturer at Boston University. Their research focuses on utilizing remote sensing technology to monitor surface changes in Earth's biomes. Their research on land use, land coverage change, carbon cycles, deforestation, and time series analysis has been funded by a number of global scientific institutes. And they are also involved in silocarbon and severe programs that monitor forest degradation and deforestation.
Thank you. Today I'm going to talk about monitoring shifting cultivation in Laos. I'm going to run the whole video. Oh, there's supposed to be music here. Oh, yeah, nice. So shifting cultivation is also called slash and burn, shifting agriculture, or Sweden agriculture. So in the shifting cultivation practice, farmers usually select a plot in the forest for farming. And then they cut and burn the forest, grow crops for a year or two, and then abandon this plot so that the vegetation on the plot can regrow. If the fallow period is long enough, then the vegetation can recover to secondary forest. However, because of the increasing pressure from the population growth, the fallow period is getting shorter and shorter, which means that the land is getting less sustainable. So shifting cultivation is one of the major causes of forest degradation in the tropics. It can cause immediate carbon emissions from slash and burn and also long-term reduction of biomass. Laos, the country of Laos is a hotspot of shifting cultivation. However, currently there's no national level reliable shifting cultivation map, partly because shifting cultivation is very dynamic and occurred at small scale. So it's very difficult to monitor shifting cultivation. So here we use dense Landsat time series and Google Earth Engine to monitor shifting cultivation in Laos from 1991 to 2020. Google Earth Engine is a great platform for time series analysis. So we first run CCDC SMA, which stands for Continuous Change Detection and Classification Spectral Mixture Analysis, to detect forest disturbance in Laos. And then we classified the drivers of those disturbances into shifting cultivation, deforestation, or forest to plantation, or subtle disturbance like selective logging. And so we are using, for this classification, we used the information from post-disturbance classification, object-based analysis, and also change magnitudes. So finally, we created annual maps of shifting of those forest disturbance drivers at 30-meter level for Laos. And we also made a map of the whole period. So the producers and users' accuracy are 88% and 80% respectively. We created the first 30-meter country-level shifting cultivation map for Laos. Based on our map results and area estimates, we found that shifting cultivation is a major land use in Laos every year. About a third of the country is affected by shifting cultivation. And this map and products is very useful for the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry in Laos, and also support the RED reporting. Thank you.
Okay, so our ninth speaker is actually a couple of people. It's Marcos Moreau and Fabien Mustard, a pair of PhD candidates at University College London, here to talk about citizen science. They've both done a million things here, and I want to stay on time, so there we go. Take it away, you guys.
Hi. So we work with local partners and forest people, pastoralists, fishers, and farming communities in very different environments. And yeah, if we consider these people are the expert of the land, the challenge becomes to enable them to map the land by collecting data, for instance. And this is crucial to address data gaps, okay? So the Spatial mapping tool is co-designed with land users so that local semantics can be can be captured, and literacy barrier can be overcome. So here you can find some example of the interface that land user have designed, and that enable them to index the earth from the ground the way they want.
Yeah. So linking to the pictorial interfaces for describing the geometries, then we can look at, now it's a bit covered, but we can look at the bottom, a portion of the map created by a few agropastoralist communities in South Ethiopia using Sapeli and WhatsApp for sharing data. The rationality behind linking messaging and mapping is that by kind of bringing mapping to where lay people are in the digital dimension, then we are kind of one step closer to democratize mapping, and therefore kind of collaboratively improve global maps. At the left, you can see the very recently launched machine-generated map, Dynamic World, and then OSM, the OpenStreetMap. And the semantic and geometric differences are very, very clear. We don't have time to go through the full legend and all land use classes, and nor we have time to go through how the data is processed using wisdom of the crowd concept to improve accuracy. But if we look at, for instance, this example of water bodies, we can see that there are some false positive on the right and or 77 false negatives on the left. So this is just one example, but the point here that we want to bring is that the broader problem is that the Earth is being indexed mostly with data coming from space, but not often with data or information generated from the ground. So that's what our work focuses on, kind of unlocking this knowledge, of contributing to unblock this knowledge of billions of land users or sensors. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks you guys. Our 10th and final speaker is Richard Carrero, currently a data engineer at the Stanford University School of Medicine, and his work is focused on the development of open source systems that facilitate the deployment of machine learning models efficiently and at scale for use with massive geospatial data sets. I almost made it. Go ahead.
Ooh, all right, so we're almost done. I'll try to be brief. Yeah, so what are we working on? We're developing a system which uses remotely sensed data. Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Okay. Which uses remotely sensed data to find locations in the Amazon region where charcoal is being produced. Why are we looking for these sites? Charcoal production in this region is associated with two problematic practices, deforestation and forced labor. And this system is being developed to be used by the Brazilian Federal Labor Prosecution Office to identify illegal activity and hopefully to prevent it. Okay, so next I'll play a video. Okay, yeah, so this video was captured at a charcoal production site in the target region. You can see the kilns in operation. This video was captured by an individual who claimed that he and several others were forced to work against their will at this site. He said that conditions were horrible there. There was no water, there were no restrooms. Everything was horrible. Okay, so that's the motivation. But in practice, the sites are super hard to find from the ground. So to actually find these sites, we're using ML-based computer vision models with satellite imagery and other geospatial data to find them remotely. And I've developed a purpose-built geospatial data pipeline to deploy those models at scale. Okay, that's easy to say, but in practice, there were several challenges which had to be overcome to deploy this model. Firstly, there was no existing data set. We had to actually find charcoal sites from which to produce a data set, which we did using Google Earth. The historical imagery catalog particularly made that process easier. The other challenges had to do primarily with deployment. We needed to deploy these models at scale. The target region is massive and covers hundreds of millions of hectares. And we needed to run these models daily. The Brazilians want to find new sites as quickly as possible, so that they can not only stop illegal activity, but hopefully prevent it before it occurs. Okay, and that leads me into LightPipe. So this is a free and open source Python package I'm developing using many of the insights from this and other projects. It's designed to efficiently create analysis-ready samples from georeferenced data for use with computer vision models. It's designed to scale effortlessly. It's lightweight, it's super fast, but it's still under development. So any feedback would be greatly appreciated. Yeah, and again, my name's Richard. And please check out the Human Trafficking Data Lab. They're doing really good work. Thanks.
All right. So that was lightning talks, folks. Let's give them another round of applause, just because that's a lot to try to put together in 3 minutes. We actually have more time than, like, we got through it, everybody. We have about 15 minutes. If anybody wants to ask questions, we've got a mic there. We've got mics around, so anybody? Don't all speak up at once. It's deafening. All right.
Richard with the Human Trafficking Project. I'm Stace. We've sort of quasi corresponded on this project, and I'm wondering if you can talk a little more about the type of data that this pipeline is designed for. I know we were attempting to use Planet at one point, the Planet Scope imagery. If you could talk a little bit more about what's been successful.
Yeah, so.
Yep.
You can hear me? Okay. Yeah, so this package is designed to work with any sort of raster files, GeoTIFFs. It also works with vector files. So, if you wanted to feed in vector files as a feature, that's possible with this package. Does that answer your question?
Anybody else? I mean, you could ask them what their favorite color was. It's, it's open QA. There we go.
Hi there, I'm Noel. Most of you know that because I work on a lot of your projects. What can we do to make your life easier?
Yeah, so I can answer that. You can download this package and see if it works, try to find any bugs, and try to use it to do interesting things. And if anybody else wants to answer, that's up to them.
That's a pretty low bar, so.
That's all I ask.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in on this one. So, I mean, we're mapping an area of, 8 million square kilometers, and it's only possible because of Earth engine, that's very clear, but at some point and we're growing very, very fast, and but scalability is still, I know it sounds contradictory because there's no bigger machine than Earth engine, but scalability sometimes it's a problem for us. We work like with many scripts, like a workflow of perhaps 14 different scripts to end with our end result. But sometimes when we notice something didn't go well with with some of the intermediary steps, we gotta go back and we run the whole thing again. And for some reason, I kind of felt like I wish we could automate some of the steps that we have already identified that were correct, instead of just, okay, I gotta run them all again, open the script and run it all again. So if we could somehow, I don't know, the automator that the Macs used to have, that you just put them in a row and run them through all of them. And that's kind of my wish list.
If you ask me my wishes, I definitely have one. And I talked about Rebecca, and she vetoed it, so I still want to try it again. We have a lot of, the University of Maryland has the analysis-ready data, Lancet data, 2000, 2020, all years. And we have many partners who want to use it. And so and GEE doesn't want to put it on GEE accounts. So what we have to do now, and I just bought this morning 10, 20 terabyte hard disk for $10,000. We're going to the server of UMD, plug them in, download them, pack them, and ship them to Europe, which is so old school. And it would be so easy if it would be on GEE and everybody in the world can just use it. So that's my question. Get the ARD data, analysis ready data on GEE so everybody can use it.
Whoop, right next to you.
A way to have a greater online compute. So for like the Se.plan application that I demonstrated, you know, maybe there's other ways I could get around this by using like the REST API or some other method. But essentially the entire dashboard is a .getinfo call, which works in like most situations. But we do run into a scalability and call out issue or a timing out issue with that. So if there was a way we could increase that, you know, specifically like project wise, that might be nice.
All right, looks like y'all are concluded answering that question. We got a thumbs up from Noel. Anybody else? Anybody else got questions for these awesomely talented people? Yes.
Oh, thanks. So, hi, I'm Kim. I work with Richard at the Stanford Human Trafficking Data Lab. Unlike most of the people in this room, I'm a social scientist and not a geospatial person. And one of the questions that I have for you guys, there seems like so much potential for collaborative projects between people who are interested in asking questions about, you know, how can we change the policy and what is the effect of that policy on what we are seeing on the ground, and the expertise that everybody in this room has to really describe at a minute detail what we actually do see on the ground, right? So one of our problems is we often just don't have enough data to be able to ask the right questions, and then you guys have tons of data. So I'm wondering if any of you guys are engaged in collaborations with other kinds of, like, you know, policy analysts or social scientists, economists, development economists, things like that, where we're kind of using this data and trying to solve the problems and actually quantify impact of these policies around the world.
Well, that is the definition of my institute, what we do at WRI. But the problem is data is great, policy is messy, and especially in the tropics. And so going from data to policy acceptance, we have actually a new data partnership, but Rebecca talked also this morning about the Forest Data Partnership, which exactly does, that's what the policymaker wants and what the scientist can give. There's a gap between. And trying to solve that gap is not easy, because sometimes the policymakers don't know what to ask, sometimes the scientists don't know what to give. And that gap is indeed, as you saw, existing a lot. Trying to get it then implemented, you know, as you know, and I think that was also this morning, like, if you start something and when policy adopted, you are 5 to 7 years further. If you work on projects, that's a long time. Completely agree that these worlds need to come closer together, but it is an effort, and I think that effort is more and more needed, but it will stay an effort for some long time. So yeah, we need to all work on that to make that closer together, what science can deliver and what policy is asking to us.
All right, that's that. Anybody else? Anybody else got inquiries, questions, curiosities? Anybody? All right, well, I mean, you know where to find these folks. They'll probably be here at the conference with all of y'all. Thank you again so much for those talks. That's a lot to get through in 3 minutes, so good job, everyone. Let's give them one more round of applause, please.